learned this trick recently from John.
Doing that?
To get all the bubbles off the side.
Oh.
Isn't that crazy? Because it kind of means like that your glass is not necessarily dirty, but like soap stuck on maybe or something. But if you give it a good... I know, I was like, dude, that's... Because I used to like take the end of a pen and like...
Oh, yeah?
I mean, there's still some, but it looks better than...
Oh, look at your creamy head you got there.
Well, it's so funny because that's the one that didn't fizz. What's going on, everybody? Welcome to Oktoberfest in Chop and Brew headquarters. Chip Walton here with
Paul Fowler,
a.k.a.
Snack Stick.
And we are drinking two versions of an Oktoberfest that Paul brewed from Brewing Classic Styles, Jamil's recipe called
Munich Madness.
Yeah. Which I used a couple years ago for an Ale-toberfest. But this is a true lager, snack stick style. Tell us about it, man. Tell us about why we have two of them, besides the fact that we like Oktoberfest.
Well, this year I decided to do 10 gallons just for have a little variety, trying out different yeast and brewing a little less per month, but having the same amount of beer. So I brewed a 10-gallon batch, and one of them is the Wyeast 2206, which I've always used in the past, and it's a great yeast and does a good job on this beer. And the other one is the Imperial Harvest yeast, which I've used a few times, never on this beer, but they are completely different. They're both turned out really well. But yeah, they're way different than one another.
The grain bill also, though, is a little different than your last couple, right?
Yep. Last year I used Wyeast Bow Pills. I was really happy with that malt. It just had this great grainy character to it, Pilsner character. And everything I made with it last year was just great. But last year's comments, I think from the comp I entered it in, said they want a little more malt character, a little richer. So this year I went with the Wyeast floor malted bowl pills instead. Mm-hmm. And yeah, it's a little different. So the Wyeast one is exactly the same as last year, other than that base malt. And this one, I've never used that yeast on this beer before.
So what do you get out of the two different?
To me, the Harvest comes out more malt forward, a lot more malt, richer, maybe just a tad sweet on the palate, but then finishes dry. The Wyeast is a little more balanced. You can actually get a little bit of hop out of it, I think. But both are. The Wyeast one is like super easy drinking.
Yeah.
You could pound a whole liter of that down and not even know you just did that. The other one, it's a richer experience. It's not to say that you wouldn't go back for more. Mm-hmm. You might drink it a little slower.
It is drier. I mean, it finishes. It seems a little more kind of rich up front, but I feel like it just like whew, yep. And it clears out. Whereas this one is more of a mouthful, almost like a dessert. Even though they're probably the same.
Yeah,
stats,
I
right?
think they
same
finished
ABVs,
within 1 point of each other. They are 5.2, 5.3. Yeah. So this one finished at 10.16, 10.15.
And this recipe is done pretty good for you.
Yeah.
In competition. At home, domestically as well as competitively.
Yep. I think I've made Jamil's recipe for this beer at least 3 or 4 times, and I think it's medaled almost every time. If not medaled, scored really well. So it is a solid recipe. I really enjoy that recipe. So I've never even considered brewing a different Oktoberfest.
The water prep, again, you do some, as always.
Yep.
What do you try to mirror? What's your profile?
This one is a maltier profile. So I got more chloride in it versus sulfate because I want it. It's a malty style. So I want it more of a malt forward beer. And definitely the yeast makes a difference too, as I found out this year.
To people that you've served them side by side, are there many people to ask what the reaction is when you have people tasting both?
The consensus so far has been.
What does Miss Snackstick say? Is basically what I'm asking.
She likes them both. I don't know which one she prefers, but other people that have tried it have said both are really well made. Maybe in a competition, the harvest would do a little better because the judges are looking for that richer, maltier thing.
Oktoberfest is so funny because it's like, I mean, traditionally, you know, so it's like this wedding ceremony is what it originally was. And it was just a couple weeks ago was the anniversary. So it's in October, I believe. But then the festival that most people celebrate's in September.
Yeah.
But because of the modern beer schedule, the beers actually come out in like August.
Oh, really? Wow.
Oh, yeah. I mean, like Summit's Oktoberfest, the whole...
It's out in August?
One of the big things to do is like your first Oktoberfest is always at the state fair. Which is always like 2 weeks before Labor Day.
Yeah.
And it's just kind of like the tail wagging the dog, right? With craft beer. Considering that it snowed today. The Wyeast one, I'm like, oh yeah, I can kind of feel that a little bit more today, specifically, because it just kind of, it lingers more like a winter beer should. But this one, I'm a huge fan of. They're both like crystal clear and beautiful, and they got the Munich, everything about them, the color, the flavor.
Yeah. It's a really good recipe. I'd highly recommend trying it. And if it's not your thing, try a different one. But
we could probably put your recipe.
Sure, it's that.
Down below. We'll link it in the video description, but it's essentially going to be this plus the water. I mean, we'll include the water stuff. If you're into the water, as some people say.
Yeah, and I know from the past times I brew it, depending on what malt you use, like if you use a Munich malt from Castle and next time you use Weyermann, it's different. It's going to be a different beer.
So crazy. It's so funny when you get into brewing. It's just like any hobby. You think it's going to be like, oh, here's the 5 things you need to know how to do. And then people are like, oh, but water chemistry. And oh, wait, there's multiple suppliers of
malt.
Every pale malt on earth. And you're just like, oh, all right, I'm going in. Or I'm not going in, as the case with me. I'm like, water chemistry? Boo. St. Paul water is just delicious enough.
It is.
All right, man. Oktoberfest for Oktoberfest. Cheers, dude.
Cheers.
Whoop, whoop.
Cheers.
This lighting looks good. Look at us. Really nice. Little light off to the side. Little light over here.
The shirt makes me look thin.
I'm on a new diet. It's called wearing black. And then we got some Halloween decor for the Oktoberfest.
Very festive.
We've been covering it up. They play the game. They play the Halloween game even if we don't have kids, but we do candy. We don't just turn out the light and be like,
no,
we got no kids. F your kids.
There's always one house that's the scary house, and I've seen kids cry.
Do they have kids at that house, or are they just they're just
scary?
They're grown folk being let's scare all these kids.